Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. This is an English translation of the Majlis of Hazrat Maulana Qamar Uzzaman Saheb Damat Barakatuhum, which took place on Saturday, the 8th of Safar, 1445, corresponding with the English date, 26th of August, 2023. Hazrat Wala starts off this Majlis by quoting the ayat of the Quran Majid, وَمَا خَلَقَتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. So here Hazrat Wala is saying this kitab that I continuously read out to you, very concise and short but full of wisdom. It is the compilation of Sheikh Ibn Ataullah Iskandari rahimahullah. And some of his kitabs were also read out in the majlis of Hazrat Sheikh Zakaria. The translation was done by Hazrat Tanvi, and this was the great desire that this kitab be translated. This desire was in the heart of Hazrat Haji Imdadullah, and his Hawashi and footnotes are also mentioned in this particular kitab. This kitab consists of great anwarat, nur and illumination. Allah Ta'ala give us the tawfiq and the hidayat of benefiting from this fuyuz and barakat. So here, in short, we are being told and taught about why have we been created? Why have we been created? So Allah Ta'ala here makes it clear that the secret, opening up the secret of why He created us, it is, and He informs His servants and opens it up to them why He created to them, so that this secret and this objective of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala regarding them may not be negligent and ignorant about it, due to which they may go off the straight path, the path of hidayat. Now it comes about a discussion that took place between the malaika talking to one another. So one of them then says, Ya layta hadha al-khalq lam yukhlaqu. If only this creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, referring to humankind, if they were only not created. The second one then came in and put his share or contributed to this discussion and conversation, and he says, Ya layta id khuliqu alimu lima khuliqu. That listen, now they have been created, if they only could just understand why they were created, it would have been meaning some great benefit to them. And then yet a third one adds to that conversation by saying, Ya laytahum idha alimu lima khuliqu amilu bima lam alimu. That if they knew why they were created, if only they could practice on that which they knew. They knew why they were created. If they could only practice then accordingly, because then they would have done the right thing. The fourth farishta, an angel, then still goes on to say, وَيَا لَيْتَهُمْ إِذَا لَمْ يَعْمَلُوا بِمَا عَمِلُوا تَابُوا بِمَا عَمِلُوا. That okay, if they did not make amal on that which they knew why they were created, they did not make amal accordingly. Now if that's the case, why could they not at least just make tawbah from that which they then done against the grain or then done in a wrong way. So namaz is not just that ibadat. Ibadat and worship is not that only of namaz and roza. It is much more beyond that. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opens up and spells out that He had created the servants, the bondsmen. He did not create them for themselves. Allah has not created you and me for ourselves. وَإِنَّمَا خَلَقَهُمْ لِيَعْبُدُوهُ وَيُوَحِّدُوا. Allah Ta'ala created them so that they can worship Him and that they can proclaim His oneness. Then Shaykh Ibn Atta gives a fantastic example by saying that you will not purchase a slave so that that slave can see to his own needs and serve himself. Rather, you would purchase a slave so that that slave can serve you. Allahu Akbar. So therefore, this ayat is a proof against every servant that is occupying himself. He's busying himself with the portion of himself against the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's busy seeing to himself instead of seeing to the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he's seeing to his own desires instead of the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So like how you understand the ni'mah to be from the side of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then you make shukr over it, similarly understand that kulfat and that difficulty, inconvenience, calamity to be also from the side of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then exercise sabr. So sinning and disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when you've made a sin, understand that to be the disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah ta'ala created you for obedience and worshipping Him. Keep on thinking. आदमी सोचा करे कि क्यों पैदा किया गया, that why has he been created. So this article and this topic, we can actually go into it and it can end up being very, very long and lengthy. But wahidullah, proclaim the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because this is the heights of the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Without tawheed, there would be no obedience whatsoever. When tawheed becomes complete and perfect, a person also reaches the stage of perfection. So you done the good and the obedience. However, you do not attribute it to yourself. You understand it that actually and in essence, genuinely, Allah Ta'ala allowed you, inspired you, gave you the hidayat to do that. And when a person carries out ma'asi and disobedience, then he understands it from himself. To understand it to be from the side of Allah is actually disrespectful. Somebody asked Hazrat Haji Imdadullah that, Hazrat, are you displeased with me? So he said, if I was displeased with you, do you think that you would have had the inspiration to carry out so much of the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Openly and straight, that's what he said. It is due to my happiness and being happy with you that you are getting some tawfiq to do something. So when I am now just a means, a simple basic means, assisting you between yourself and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then when the wasta in this means is displeased and unhappy, then do you think that you would reach or achieve? Here's the water. Take the example of the water. If there's no means, there's no pipe, and there's no way for it to come here, do you think that the water would come? If we have to cut it off here, what would happen? So, I'm the most deserving. I'm the most in need, meaning Hazrat Wala is saying that I should practice on this type of ta'limat and teachings. Allah Ta'ala give me that tawfiq. Allah Ta'ala keep me also occupied in His obedience. Now look at the example. Hazrat Wala again is speaking about the kalb muallam, the trained hunting dog. When the hunter or the owner then releases it and it goes and it captures and drops the prey, it does not eat from it. Sometimes this dog even supersedes and surpasses insan. He will not even take a bite or even one chunk or piece from there. Yes, after that, if the owner throws a piece to it, yes, it would then eat. Allah Ta'ala has also created some type of salahiyat, capability and capacity even in a dog. So keep this knowledge. Why has Allah sent you? What has He commissioned you to do when He sent you here to this world? Why did He create you? Who gave you life? Who gave you health? Who gives sickness? Understand this ma'rifat. Get this type of recognition. You know, from Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Saheb, Hazrat Wala is saying, we heard this famous incident about the slave that he was purchased. And the master or the king then says to him, Kya khaoge? Listen, what would you eat? He says, Hazrat, whatever you give me to eat, whatever you feed me. He says, okay, what will you wear? He says, whatever you clothe me with. He says, where will you sleep? He says, wherever you allow me to sleep. Hearing this, the master was so deeply affected, so taken aback, he says that I free you. Today you have taught me the greatest lesson of loyalty to a master. I am so far away from the genuine master. I am not even your master in reality, but you have taught me that how far away I am from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is actually what my position, my thought and my mind should have been with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I just purchased you with merely a few coins, and this is how loyal you are to me. Actually, you are not my servant anymore. You're not my slave anymore. You have become my mentor because you have taught me the greatest lesson. Now, listen, you stay here and eat. You stay here and remain here now, and you eat as much as you want, and I will now serve you. Meaning, he taught the lesson that to be pleased with whatever comes from the side of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What you going to eat? Whatever Allah gives me to eat, I'm happy with it. What are you wearing? Whatever Allah allows me to wear, I'm happy in all conditions. Where will you sleep? How will you sleep? Whatever Allah Ta'ala has destined for me, I'm happy with that. So, whatever you are doing in the form of service and ibadat and worship, that's called worshipping Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, that is called ibadat. Whatever is going from you to Allah and Allah is being pleased with that, that's called ibadat in the terminology. Whatever comes from the side of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whatever it may be, and you are pleased with that, that's called abdiyat. And listen, ibadat will come to an end here in this world and in this dunya. However, abdiyat will continue on the day of Qiyamah as well. In fact, on the day of Qiyamah, Allah Ta'ala will even say and speak and discuss. Muslims will be there and the non-Muslims who opposed Allah Ta'ala in this world. They will lie and make great false claims, and they will say, Nahnu ashaddu hubban lillah, that we possess the greatest love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. At that point, Allah Ta'ala will then command them that, listen, go. Take yourselves and throw yourselves headlong into the fire of Jahannam. And they will object, they will reject, they will not carry out that. Allah will say, In kuntum ahibba'i, if you really claim to be my beloveds and to love me, then throw yourselves into Jahannam. They would not do that. Allah Ta'ala will then turn His attention to the Muslimin and say to them that take yourselves and throw yourselves into the fire of Jahannam. But because they had that habit of disobeying the disbelievers, even there they'll disobey. The Muslims always had that habit of obeying Allah, doing for Allah. When the call came, they stood up and they ran in the direction of obedience. Here also, they will follow suit and do exactly the same. They will run to the brink of Jahannam and throw themselves into the fire of Jahannam. At that time, Allah Ta'ala will command fire, hell and Jahannam, Ya naru kuni barda wa salaman ala al-mu'minin ala al-mukhlisin, that, oh fire, listen, these are not the disobedient ones. I'm just testing them. Become cool for them and a source of peace. These are the sincere ones. These are the believers. They are doing this in my itaat and in my obedience. Now this was from amongst the khususiyat and the specialities of the Majlis of Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Saheb. So, similarly, there also Allah commands that you fish, that listen, take him in, swallow him, referring to Yunus alayhi salatu wassalam. But listen, not as your meal and your portion of food and sustenance, but rather just as an amanat. And at that time, Allah Ta'ala inspires Yunus alayhi salatu wassalam. He reads that golden statement, La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu min al-zalimin. And at that time, where was he? He was in the darkness of the depths of the ocean. He was in the darkness and in the dead of the night, a second darkness. And then he was in the darkness of the belly of that fish. At that time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala came to his assistance. Allah ta'ala saved him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala assisted him. This ayat is of such a nature, وَكَذَلِكَ نُنْجِي الْمُؤْمِنِينَ, just like how Allah Ta'ala saved Yunus alayhi salatu wassalam. Similarly, He will continue saving and giving salvation to the mu'mineen if they also follow in the steps of Yunus alayhi salatu wassalam. Now this type of mazameen, Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Saheb used to quote abundantly. And in his majlis was who? None other than Hazrat Maulana Alimiya Saheb, Hazrat Maulana Kari Tayyab Saheb, etc. Also, he used to make, like how he used to make talqeen and give gentle instruction that read this kalima, La ilaha illa anta subhanaka, inni kuntu min al-zalimin. Similarly, he used to also make talqeen of Sayyidul Istighfar, Allahumma anta Rabbi. Hazrat Maulana Mohammad Ahmad Saheb, regarding the people who used to be there and making his khidmat, he used to say, come, wake up. And this is at night. Where would he sleep at night, Hazrat Maulana Muhammad Ahmad Saheb? And then he used to say, come, read 300 times, La ilaha illa anta subhanaka, inni kuntu min al-zalimin. So Allah has prescribed the sickness. He gives the sickness. And Allah Ta'ala is that very Zat and being that gives shifa as well. You know, when Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Saheb was not well, he became very, very ill at one stage. Then what did he do? He said to those around him that, listen, read La ilaha illa anta subhanaka, inni kuntu min al-zalimin, and I want you people to read that. But then also he turned the attention. He said, just don't read it customary. Read it properly and read it correctly with your heart. Not just merely by your tongue. Today, it's read over hundreds of thousands of times, but it's not read the way it's supposed to be read. Hazrat Maulana Abdul Hayy Farangi Mahalli has written a kitab on just Iktharul Ibadah, Laysa bi bid'ah, carrying out abundant ibadat is not bid'at, and he made rid and a refutation against the Ghair Muqallideen at that time who were making objection. Why are these people making so long ibadat and so much ibadat, etc.? And what about Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, when he went to the masjid and the Imam recited إِذَا زُلْزِلَتِ الْأَرْضُ زِلْزَالَهَا, and then when he heard the ayats, فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَهُ وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَهُ, Hazrat Imam Abu Hanifa, after the Isha Salat, wept and he cried. He held his beard and he said, "Oh, that being who will punish even for the atom amount of disobedience and evil that is carried out, and he will reward for the atom amounts of good that is carried out. Save this Abd Nu'man," referring to himself, "from the fire of Jahannam." So have we only followed and are we only taking and making amal on the qawl of Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah and not on his hal? In fact, Shaykhul Hind on one occasion came and he asked Hazrat Gangohi regarding a certain thing that I have an objection to this here. And immediately Hazrat Gangohi then gave the answer. He didn't understand that at that time, so he came to Hazrat Gangohi. And Hazrat Gangohi had achieved that and he asked it from him. Now you'll ask me where I get all these waqi'at from. Read Amirul Riwayat and you will find it there. And I went to Deoban and I spoke about this. You read the Hawashi and the footnotes of Bukhari Sharif, but have you read about the lives of our Akabirin? And like how you have heard about the Shuruhat and the explanations of Bukhari Sharif, then what about the explanations of the Maktubat? You heard about the Zahir of the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What about the batin? Like how the Kitabullah has got Zahar and Batan, the external and the internal. So to understand the external of the Quran, you need the external of the hadith, and to understand the internal of the Quran, you need the internal of the hadith. Allah Ta'ala bless us with this ulum and this ma'arif. Now Hazrat Tanvi has made a fantastic translation. Here, Ibrahim bin Adham was going for hunting, and from the unseen, he hardly puts his foot into the saddle of the animal and he hears, "Ya Ibrahim, have you been created for this? Have I commanded you with this?" Then he hears it a second time, "Oh Ibrahim, you have not been created for this, and neither have you been commanded for this year." Now whoever understands the reason and the philosophy of why he has been created and he makes amal accordingly, then this year is genuine fiqh and genuine understanding. And whoever has been blessed with this year, he has been blessed with the greatest gift. It is for this reason here that Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala used to say that fiqh is not quoting many riwayat. However, fiqh is when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala places his nur in the heart of a believer. I heard our Shaykh Abul Abbas rahimahullah ta'ala saying that the faqih is one whom the veils are taken away from his heart, so his heart can then see and understand. So whoever has been given this understanding of why he has been created, that Allah has created him for his obedience, and so that he can make the khidmat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that will be a means of him gaining abstinence from the dunya and going towards the akhirat. He will not involve himself in his own needs, rather in the needs of his master. It will make him stand in the direction of getting ready towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore it was said regarding one of them that, "Tell me if it has been said to you that tomorrow you're going to die." He said, "You would find no difference in me," meaning I'm living my life to such a capacity and such a state that to its fullest. Now let's make dua. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Allahumma alif bayna qulubina wa aslih dhata baynina wahdina subul as-salam wa najjina min adh-dhulumati ila an-nur wa jannibna al-fawahisha ma dhahara minha wa ma batan wa barik lana fi asma'ina wa absarina wa qulubina wa azwajina wa dhurriyyatina wa tub alayna innaka antat tawwabur rahim. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم بحرمة سيد النبي الكريم صلى الله عليه وسلم.